Western North Carolina businesses need your financial support now more than ever in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. This month, Darby Communications, based in Asheville, North Carolina, is donating its time and ad space here on the Rock Fight to help the other outdoor businesses in Western North Carolina get back on their feet. The outdoor industry is a major contributor to Western North Carolina's economy, and Darby Communications is asking people to donate to the Outdoor Business Alliance Hurricane Helene Relief Fund, which supports outdoor industry businesses in their recovery and supports their staff as they rebuild in the wake of the storm's devastation. Now is the time to help the outdoor community. If you have a few spare bucks to help build back what we lost in Western North Carolina, head to outdoorbusinessalliance.org and click Donate Today to get started.
Rock fight, rock fight, rock fight, rock fight, rock fight, rock fight.
Welcome to the Rock Fight, where we speak our truth, slay sacred cows, and sometimes agree to disagree. This is an outdoor podcast that aims for the head. I'm Colin True, and joining me today, it's National Candy Day, and his kids are worried about their Halloween stash. It's Justin Hausman!
Today's National Candy Day? Huh? No.
Yeah!
I mean, I would have thought that would be November 1st, but maybe that's probably something else already.
Have you already eaten all your kids' candy?
I'm already tired of it, though. What's weird is they went a solid 2 days without even asking about it, so I think they forgot.
They do.
But then they remembered.
Yeah.
Yesterday morning, my almost 3-year-old woke up and got out of bed. She sleeps with us every night. She just crawls into bed at some point, and so she gets up and she leaves the bedroom. And it's 6:30 in the morning, and I'm like, is she going to the bathroom? Like, where's she going? You know, and like, it's too many footsteps. She's not going to the bathroom, and I'm like, okay, she's going to the kitchen. And right then, I knew what sound I would hear next, which was the sound of one of our dining room table chairs.
Crinkle.
No, getting drug into the kitchen.
Oh.
It was like, on the ground, and I go in there, and I'm like, I spring out of bed because I know what she's doing. She's going to try to climb on top of the fridge to get the candy, and so I go in there and I'm like, Harper, what are you doing? She's like, it's candy. I'm just like, no, dude. But she would like wake up the day or two after Halloween and just be, and she'd like the first words out of her mouth would be like, her eyes would be closed. She'd be like, don't eat my candy. Like she was dreaming about someone eating her candy.
Well, we are today going to talk about some headlines that come out of the outdoor adventure community and industry. But before we get to that, like we always tell you guys, a few housekeeping items, programming reminders. We need you to pick a little fight with your pick a little rock fight with your podcast app. Toss a little stone at that follow button. Wherever you're listening to the Rock Fight, follow the show. That's what we need you to do. Just peg it right there. Bam.
Bam.
Now you're following the show. Bam.
Emerald Lagasse
now
is a follower of Rock Fight.
Who?
Emerald Lagasse.
Is he still alive?
Don't you remember? Bam. That was like
bam!
he'd be like putting salt in a pan. Bam!
Man, that was his whole
and
thing.
The whole audience would be like, bam. God, it was sad.
Talk about a time when you could like build a career off of like saying bam while throwing salt. Like that could never happen in like 2024, I feel like.
Well, I don't know. What about Salt Bay? Remember Salt Bay?
No, what was Salt Bay?
The meme of the dude that's sprinkling salt.
Oh, yeah.
He
That's
built
right.
a restaurant kingdom that I think has already crumbled based just on doing a weird thing with salt.
Well, anyway, bam, you're following the Rock Fight now. Also, you should, bam, follow Kieran Beer, our other podcast here on the Rock Fight Podcast Network. And Justin, if any of these listeners who are now following us and saying bam along with us, if they wanted to reach out, what should they do?
Colin, for a man who's on 3.5 hours of sleep, you're doing great.
Thanks, man.
Colin got home from playing hockey at 1 a.m. last night. And
we lost, too, in a shootout, so it wasn't even like
you guys
fun.
do shootouts? Yeah,
well, if you're tied at the end, they do a shootout.
What position do you play?
Defense.
Oh, okay. All right. Anyway, let's, as Vince Scully would say, now let's get back to this one. All right. So if you want to email the show, please do at myrockfight@gmail.com. And you can, once again, Colin, the Instagram is missing from here. You're lucky I'm remembering.
I was just trying to shorten it up a little bit.
All right. Well, you can follow us on Instagram, too, at, what is it, My Rock Fight Co.? Is it .co?
This is Rock Fight Co.
Rock Fight Co.
Yep.
Rock Fight Co.
Rock Fight Co.
And then please sign up for the newsletter. It's over there at the website, rockfight.co, and you just click right there on join the mailing list, and boom, bam, it'll come in your inbox. You'll hear somewhere. You'll be doing something on Sunday, and you won't be thinking about the Rock Fight at all. Then you'll hear a faint bam somewhere, and you'll realize, oh, you know what? I just got the newsletter.
Well, we're recording this on Monday, November 4th, and it's going to be released on Wednesday, November 6th. And in between, of course, if you didn't already know, like Justin said, from your emails and your text messages, It's election day, and according to our guy Justin Hausman from the article he published over on nationalparkstraveler.org, you can see how each member of the House of Representatives voted when it came to any issue involving national parks. I'm assuming this is from 2024 only, like that the latest session.
Well, yes. It looks like I did a bunch. It looks like this organization, a National Parks Action Fund. I'm guessing that this is a revamp of their one they did earlier this year. They released a big one in February, and I think they're just reminding you, generally speaking, of like here's how they voted. So I don't think it necessarily includes everything from this like since like February. I could be wrong, but
I did think it was funny when I clicked on it, and like the first three was like, I don't know, someone from like Massachusetts, they get an A, and then it was like someone from a Republican from Alabama, F.
Yeah, it's almost
It's
all
just like it was just like
A
boom,
and
boom,
F.
boom, up
It's
and down.
almost all
up and-
A and F. There's a few C's, but it's almost entirely A's and F's. There's more F's than A's, as you could sort of imagine. I think it's like 51. Well, I think it's like 51% are F's, something like that.
Jesus.
And you can kind of imagine. I mean, it breaks down pretty ideologically. I mean, it's like, if you just look through it, I mean, 99% of the Democrats get A's. But that's how this Congress works. They all vote in blocks. So that's kind of the deal. And so I would imagine that the A votes are probably based on people voting for, I don't remember when the Great American Outdoors Act was proposed. That wasn't this year. But, they're generally supportive of any kind of park spending. Republicans this year, they try to slash the budget again, and so they voted to repeal or to cut national parks funding by like 13%. So that's why they all got Fs. That's a pretty big chunk. And the thing that's the most surprising to this is we always hear about how public lands is a really bipartisan.
That's exactly what I was going to say,
right? Like, and we're like bending over backwards as members of the outdoor industry, as members of outdoor media, to remind people and just share news about the economic value of outdoor recreation. And so it's like, even when you put it in financial terms, which you would think Republicans would be sensitive to, it doesn't seem to really matter. I mean, there's probably I'm not an expert on national park funding. Like there's probably cases to be made for trimming the fat in various places. Like I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
But just generally speaking, if you are in favor of more amenities for more national parks, there's a pretty cut and dry scorecard you can look at. It's at National Parks Action Fund. If you just Google that, or just Google congressional scorecard, and you can search by your area. If you don't, I mean, God forbid, if you don't know who your congressperson is, you can search by your zip code and it'll tell you. Or if there's like particular places that you really are interested in, you just want to, like, hey, the people that live near Yellowstone, like how do those reps vote, and but again, if there's an R or a D by their name, it's pretty much you kind of know.
I feel like I'd like to know more about the people who got like a C. Like I'm curious. Like what were the things, right? That's actually interesting because take out everything you said about like the partisan nature of everything. Like, listen, you put things under a microscope. It's like, I'm sure there are people who are hugely concerned about the environment, the climate, the national parks, but maybe they live in a district where it's like, hey, listen, our entire economy is based on fracking. You know what I mean? So so if I will, if I have to represent the people, like I have to figure out how to balance that out, and maybe they get like a C. Like I'd kind of think that'd be an interesting thing to look at and that nuance. But yeah, to hear that's like mostly A's and F's, it's like, oh, good, good job, everybody.
I mean, that's how Congress works. I know there's at least like one Republican congresswoman from Florida who got a C. I'm sorry, from Oregon who got a C. That's even weirder,
right? That it's in Oregon.
Yeah, but you can imagine that probably has something to do with timber. Like she probably voted to like allow like more. Who knows? And it's also it's according to the National Park Action Fund. I mean, it's a nonprofit, but they're like a watchdog about making sure national parks are properly funded and have political power that they need and all that kind of stuff. So that they're trustworthy.
Well, but that's a good point though, because it is national park centric. You'd think there'd be more C and above because we're talking about this isn't just like climate bills or like
BLM
energy,
stuff,
right?
Where there's like resource extraction at play. I mean, national parks for the most part. I mean, I'm pretty sure like there's no resource extraction happening. So it's like
right.
So I think the F's largely could just come from voting against funding.
Interesting.
Or to decrease funding, or maybe the national parks still have a backlog of like billions of dollars in terms of maintenance. So it's like even if you don't think we should spend more money on them, theoretically you should at least be supporting fixing what's currently broken. I mean, I find have you ever met anybody who's like anti-national park? No, like that's the thing is it's a weird. There's gripes to be had within them. I'll never forget going to Grand Teton National Park, and we must have rented bikes. We were camping outside of the park, but really close to the park. And my wife and I think we somehow had bikes. Maybe we were on foot. I don't know. We're hiking and we get to the point where you can like walk into the entrance. And we're like, oh, cool, let's do that. And we get up there, and my entire life, I always was like, there's a vehicle entrance fee, but as a human being, I sort of assume I have the right to just walk into the national park.
Right.
No, there's for if you're a pedestrian, it's $20 or whatever. And we were like, are you fucking shitting? Like I was so mad. Like right then I became a Republican for like the rest of the afternoon. I was just like, I would jack up vehicle entrance fees in national parks. Like hell yeah.
Of course.
But like
right.
Just to walk in? Are you serious? God, it was bad. I'm getting mad just thinking about it. But I guess that's the case. I think you have to pay no matter what just to physically enter one.
Right.
So, like there's a gripe, right? But like that doesn't mean I would vote against like national park funding. So,
it is a weird thing because there are people who have Fs on that list who are like, got the F, did all the things that are like, standing opposed to national parks, but then like next summer, like, oh, I'm taking the family to Yellowstone.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, right.
Or they're going to, or at least have like pictures of them in Yellowstone or something.
Right.
Anyway, but check it out, National Park Action Fund. It's certainly worth like looking through it. You can, or even if you just Google like national parks scorecard or something like that, you'll see like a lot of local regional news things did little stories on like what their representatives got. So you'll find a ton of stuff like that. But I think it's worth looking into. I mean, if nothing else, you get to see who these people are, and like there's a shitload of Congress people, so you get to know, put a name to the face and all that sort of stuff. There's no senators in this one because senators didn't vote on anything that had anything to do with national parks, and I guess in the last year, oddly enough.
Dicks.
So, yeah.
To hell.
Often they will be included, but they're not this time.
All right. Well, the next story we got is where did I get this from? Oh, this is from Gear Junkie. Specialized has a new type of suspension that's being featured on their Diverge STR gravel bike. According to a new review on GearJunkie.com, the Diverge STR looks to cushion the rider, not the wheels. So it uses a seat tube spring for rear suspension, and then with the stem and handlebars set up to move vertically, that happens due to a cartridge in the head tube. So the bike lacks any suspension on the wheels. I guess kind of picture the wheels are stable, but now you're on the frame, and the frame is what moves to kind of absorb the bumps along the way. The author of the article seemed to leave intrigued but not sold on the concept, and first of all, I do want to say that, Justin and I we're pretty much simpletons in our bicycle preferences. We like things like rigid frames, but even still, like understanding that, that's our typical point of view. How are we feeling about suspension on a gravel bike at all before we talk about the Specialized here? What do you think about that, Justin?
I guess why wouldn't you have it? I mean, if you really are using a gravel bike,
do you really need to level out the tiny little imperfections in a gravel road?
I don't know about you, but like I do see people on single track on gravel bikes around here. Not all the time.
I do too.
And
lots
so
of gravel bikes. Yeah,
I wouldn't want to do that, especially the geometry that bike is forcing you into without having suspension. I mean, I feel like you're just begging to get thrown over the handlebars.
Just ride a mountain bike.
So I'm gonna come back to that every single time.
Yeah,
but,
put 1.8 inside your mountain bike or something like that.
Yeah,
go with put skinnies on there.
My gravel bike has flat bars, so like
right.
or risers, I guess, and I always think it's so funny that we tend to pluralize handlebars, even though there's just one on the bike. But
it's a really good point.
It drives me nuts. But yeah,
let's change. You want to take it back? You want to change it? Should we start right now? Handlebar. We're going to say it. Yeah.
I mean, I've ridden a Moots that had I think it had a tiny suspension fork. I've ridden another bike. Was it a Specialized? It might have been. It might have even been a Diverge. I don't think so though. I don't think I've ridden a Diverge that had some kind of. It wasn't a true shock. Or a strut. It was just a little soft disc that absorbed some, somewhere. I think it was on the seat tube. And I had a suspension seat tube or suspension seat post on my first electric cargo bike. And then I put one on another bike, and I don't remember what it was. And those are awesome. Like I'm all about suspension.
It's
seat
a little
posts.
bounce, like the spring in the seat and the seat tube. Okay.
Yeah, those are cool. I actually really like that a lot for like a rigid bike or a bike that you don't. It does what you think it's going to do. It softens all the little blows. So this bike has that, right? This bike has a little suspension in the seat post. I think
that's what it says. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's
so. That to me would be that's what I would want. Like I would want that. I actually think that I'm surprised that isn't a bigger deal.
Yeah.
Just because it makes things. I would think it's a much simpler thing to make than a full fucking suspension bike, or even like a shock and like linkages and stuff. You just have a little suspension seat post. That's pretty great. But that's the thing. That's for softening out the bumps. I mean, a lot of what like mountain bike suspension is built to do now is soften out the bumps, but also to keep the wheels on the ground so you have traction. So like it's not just a comfort thing. So I don't know. I agree with you though. That, like I would rather just have a mountain bike, but I guess if you're just super dedicated to gravel, I guess, if you're super dedicated to drop bars, is it. There's no other reason to have a bike like this.
Part of it is I kind of came to my gravel bike after getting my rigid mountain bike and kind of feeling like, oh, this is kind of a category that's going to be almost like a throwback category. Where it's just like, it's a little bumpy at times. And yeah, you do see people on single track, but you can kind of get by on this bike. But then immediately now we're just building this stuff in. I mean, ultimately, you're definitely more mechanically inclined and minded. Are you fascinated by the actual suspension?
Oh, sure.
Should we try one out for Gear and Beer, or is this just another?
I see this kind of thing, I'm super fascinated by it. But I have no doubt that it would be if you rode. I don't know if Specialized still makes it like a fully rigid Diverge, but I have no doubt that if you rode a gravel bike that was fully rigid and then this thing, you'd immediately understand the point, right? Like you would get it right away. But that still begs the question of why are you even on a bike like this at all? I mean,
well, that's it.
But that's the thing for any bike, right? Like, why do you have why do you have full suspension versus a hardtail? I mean, it just comes down to personal preference, And like, I know the Diverges have this little weird linkage. If you Google this bike while you're listening to this, you'll see like I don't know if linkage is the right term, probably not. Like a little thing, but on the top tube, between the top tube and the seat post that moves in and out. And so that's why I guess it's letting the front part of the triangle flex while you're riding. And they've been doing that for a little while, and people must like it because Diverge sells like hotcakes. So, but again, it's just like I don't like how you sit on a drop bar bike. I feel like it's pretty limiting. Obviously, this kind of thing like kind of gives it a bit more flexibility in terms of where you can ride. But I just personally would never feel comfortable going down anything chunky with drop bars ever. But I see people do it. I mean, I've seen footage of guys like fucking jumping gravel bikes. Like So I don't know. I feel like also if you can afford this bike, you can afford to have lots of bikes. So like,
that's true.
Like, but that's to me an argument against it. Like if it's a quiver killer, that makes sense. If it's like you can literally only have, like we always used to do, you just had a bike, right?
Right.
But then you'd probably want it to be cheap, But like if you can afford an $8,000 gravel bike that has suspension, you can also afford a road bike and a mountain bike, presumably. So
that is kind of the category problem, right? Because you have, look, ride what you want. Like there's people out there who are like, riding recumbent bikes and they've got like the mirrors all over their helmets. They're having the best time ever. Like, good for you, man. Like I'm not, no one's gonna yuck your yum. This is great. But this just does seem like the more niche you get on the gravel bikes, like how many people are really looking for that kind of bike? And to your point, it's like, is it just now exists so you can have like, well, I have this gravel bike and this gravel bike and this gravel bike versus just I have a gravel bike, And so that's I don't know. Like it kind of is it even sustainable to like introduce these sort of developments and have it become right?
No, it's not sustainable. I mean, like that's the thing is at a certain point, like we're gonna be all excited about iterations in like fucking spoke technology or something like.
That's what I mean. And I don't mean sustainable environmentally. I mean like sustainable. Like can the category sustain the weight of all these extra bikes?
Well, so yeah. What was I going to say? Oh yeah. So where I live, there's a lot of fire roads that you can ride on, and very little single track that you can ride on, and so. I have thought about getting a drop bar gravel bike before, but the reason is there aren't that many flat bar gravel bikes. I mean, like my beloved Husky, that's kind of what it does. That's its idea. It's a quiver killer, right? Like you could take it on single track if you felt like it. It's like a 90s mountain bike, but with a little bit more modern geometry, and has riser bars. And so that's what I would use while gravel biking. But there aren't a ton of bikes like that. So like if your thing is like, I live here, I want to ride all these fire roads because they're gorgeous, right? Like you're riding through the redwoods, you have ocean views. I mean, it's a spectacular place to ride on the trails like this, and you feel like you'd want to go really fast, and you'd feel more comfortable with drop bars than you would, and you're not planning on taking it on chunky shit. Then gravel bikes make all the fucking sense in the world, right? Because there aren't really that many options for like fast, sleek, flat bar gravel bikes.
Yeah.
So that's where it makes a lot of sense. So like this bike will sell around here because it gets rutted out in the winter and all that kind of stuff. And so you want a little bit of cushioning on your gravel bikes. I still, though, I have no issues with riding my flat bar gravel bike. So like I'll take that. if I'm going to do like a 50-mile ride on gravel around here, I have that bike. It's that one, but
There is some irony in that, the gravel bike kind of came along and everyone's kind of pitching it as like, oh, gravel bike's the quiver killer.
Yeah, but no, now
but,
it's its own...
but there's not enough of the versions that are actually the quiver killer.
Dude, I
killer.
guarantee there are people that have 3 gravel bikes. Like this is the gravel bike I ride when it rains. This is the one I ride when it doesn't. This is the one I ride
This is
when
my
I'm
650. I got my 700. I got it all. You know?
Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, next up, last week, according to a press release, Hipcamp, the self-proclaimed #1 app to discover and book campsites, it might be actually. It was a press release, so I added self-proclaimed. Maybe it really is the #1 app to discover.
I can't imagine anything comes close to competing with it. So yeah, I'll say it's #1.
Okay, fine. I'll take that. The #1 app. Good job, Hipcamp. They announced the acquisition of BookOutdoors, which is another online booking platform for campgrounds, RV parks, and cabins. You're our resident camping enthusiast here. I mean, have you used both or either of these platforms?
I've never heard of BookOutdoors until I saw this press release, but I used to use Hipcamp quite a bit, and that's because of something else I've bitched about on the show a bunch, which is that there's not that much camping in the Bay Area. At least,
that's what I was thinking of. There's a dearth of camping options, right? Unless you want to just get on BLM land. So,
well, yeah, and if you want to do that around here, that's a 3-hour drive, so minimum.
And in some areas of the country, there's no BLM land. So.
Dude, good point. I mean, I can't even imagine what it must be like back east.
Yeah.
I've used Hipcamp, and I guess it doesn't have the same issues that Airbnb does in terms of like displacing renters or anything like that. But I don't use it very often, even though I'm frustrated with camping opportunities. And it's usually because it's usually expensive. Like the last
really?
The last time I used Hipcamp was probably it was before my kids were born. So say like 6 years ago. And it was me and some my wife and I used to have this adventure couple friends. Like we would always go backpacking stuff together. Then we all had kids. We kind of stopped doing it. But it was kind of, they were like, let's go camping. They had just had their first kid. And, but we couldn't find anywhere to camp around here, except through Hipcamp. And so we booked a spot for $90 a night each. $90.
Oh, wow.
And it was just like, it was like a cool farm, like up in Sonoma County, kind of by the ocean, and with like a creek on the property and like some pine trees around it, like a big flat spot. Like it was perfectly pleasant.
Yeah.
But like $90 just to go sleep outside.
Just set up tents and stuff like that?
Like you had to have 4-wheel drive to get down to it because it was kind of a weird like road to get down to it from the main part of the property down to where this little glade was.
Yeah.
They had like a nice little outhouse. They had some like cool swings and stuff like that. And it was fine. And it was really, really pretty. And we had a good time. But it was just like $90.
I wonder if that's changed. I mean, 5 years, almost 6 years? I wonder if it's changed.
I think it's gotten worse. Like I was gonna again. There are places to camp around here, but they book up really far in advance. And so last year, me and a buddy were like, let's go ride bikes in Santa Cruz. We'll camp. No, because I mean, Santa Cruz is like the weather's nice year round. They're all booked, and so we were trying to use Hipcamp to find spots, and it would be like, oh yeah, I have a cabin behind my house. It's $250 a night. I mean, it's honestly like going on Airbnb. It's not always.
Well, there must be getting these prices. I mean, at some point, like, why are you just get a hotel?
This is also, keep in mind, I'm filtering this through a Bay Area lens. I have no idea what it's like in other places. I'm sure you can rent like spaces on someone's property for $15 a night in lots of other places. I have no doubt. I've thought about it. Let's put
it out to the listeners. Anybody out there is a fan of Hipcamp and it really helps you out, or if you know about BookOutdoors and this acquisition makes sense, doesn't make sense, or whatever, drop us an email, myrockfight@gmail.com, so we can talk a little bit more about it. It's a good point. Maybe this upcoming year we should try and use it a little bit and see what.
You should. I mean, that's the thing. You'll find cool shit. I mean, like that spot was cool. It should have been $20 a night, but like there's a lot of cool stuff like that out there. And I definitely think the idea of like a private campground. I mean, private campgrounds are obviously a huge thing, but like, there used to be a term for this. I forget what we call like peer-to-peer, right? Like peer-to-peer private campgrounds is a really interesting idea. I mean, I had a canvas tent set up in my backyard all last year. I guarantee you, like during like when there was the Fairfax Music Festival and stuff, I could have probably booked that out. I could probably book it out a handful of times a year, make $1,000 a year. I'm sure I could, just in my backyard, and like, I don't know. I think that's kind of neat. But at that point, then you are being Airbnb, and then you are potentially displacing like hotel money and all that kind of stuff. But like, who you're competing with if you're campgrounds, and like around here there aren't enough, and we're not building anymore. So I think the idea is really cool. Hipcamp started in San Francisco. Like I've been to their
shocking.
I've been to their like headquarters. They all love camping. They're all very into it, very serious about it. But like that, I think it's an interesting idea. I just wish where I lived it was cheaper.
Halloween may be over, but there are plenty of scary stories out there about some of our industry's longest tenured brands. But hey, retail buyers, do we have a feel-good story for you? Shake off those October cobwebs with Royal Robins. Yeah, that's right, Royal Robins. If you're like, really? Yeah, really. Royal Robins is one of the true OGs of outdoor brands, part of that early group of California climbers who kind of kicked off the modern era, right alongside Tompkins and Chenard of the North Face and Patagonia. So if anyone can step up, they can. I spoke a bit with Royal's brand president Eric Burbank recently, and they're making moves and planning routes. They're focused on natural fibers, tight merchandising, and a range that knows what it stands for. All stuff that Royal himself would be down with too, I bet. I'm hoping to have Eric on the Rock Fight soon so we can dig more into the rise of Royal, and I will say I've been wearing one of their new wool pieces. It's pretty damn good, guys. So you can meet the Royal Robins team in Kansas City at GOA Connect November 11th to the 14th. Stop by their booth, say hi, maybe throw a few rocks. If you do, just tell them that Colin sent you. So according to Yahoo News, French ski resort Alpe du Grande Serre, did I pronounce that correct? You're more the foreign language guy.
Absolutely, you did not. But let me look and see.
It's a S. I thought I looked it up. It's Serre. Serre.
Okay,
Serre?
sure.
It's pretty close, right?
Does, yeah. Okay, say it again. Give me the whole thing.
Alpe du Grande Serre.
It's grand.
It's grand.
Yeah, but pretty good.
A lot of grunt sounds in French.
French is impossible.
So it's that as a ski resort.
Alpe du Grande Serre. Something like that is probably how it would sound.
Well, it doesn't really matter because they're closing
Oh,
permanently
shit.
due to lack of snow, and not like this season. Like they couldn't, they no longer get enough snow to operate. According to the article, this popular resort couldn't afford to transition to a year-round destination to cope with its shrinking snow season.
Get used to it, ski people.
Yeah, this is due to our warming world. And to provide another data point that was also in this article that's a little closer to home, climate researchers examined snowfall trends in roughly 2,000 locations in the United States and found that 64% of those locations are now receiving less snow than they did in the early 1970s. It reminded me of that picture you showed me when we were traveling together a couple weeks ago. You flew over Mount Shasta, and it was incredible.
It's just bare rock. Yeah,
it was amazing. And that's after 2 winters
with good
snow. Like record
really
snow.
Good snow. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I feel like we have a little bit of the ostrich with our heads in the sand situation going on as the snow sports industry continues to grow. And, meanwhile, our climate situation may be setting us up for a real dose of reality in the very near future. So, thoughts on losing all our snow and the snow sports world?
As a tropics enthusiast, I mean, it would be a bummer. I mean, California would lose all of its water, so that's bad. But this is like so obviously coming, and like I don't know what to make of it. Like this is like a slow moving disaster in so many ways. I mean, I don't know a single ski resort that isn't dealing with this. I've written in the last 8 years tons of articles about something similar to this.
Yep.
Especially in the Alps. For some, like the Alps seem to be really struggling with this.
They get hit so bad. Yeah. And Europe's had rough summers and winters.
I don't know. Obviously, nobody knows what to do. But it is one the thing like. I'm stammering because it's just like so much I want to say.
It's all hitting your brain at the same time.
Well, kind of. It's like the one. I studied history in college and I have a graduate degree in it. And like the one massive takeaway is that nothing is permanent. Like absolutely, we all every generation thinks that this is how it's gonna be, how it's always been, and that they've all been wrong. And everything is fluid. The Earth is fluid. Like. I'm not even talking about whether it's man-made or not. Obviously it is. But even if it wasn't, it wouldn't fucking matter. Like even if we had never pumped an iota of carbon into the atmosphere, like the climate will change.
It will change.
And so it's
100 years ago, people were still riding horses around to some degree. I mean, it was not that long ago. Think about things quickly have changed in the last 100 years. It's ridiculous.
So but we just the human nature. You just sort of get this is how it's going to be, and so like it's nobody's fault that we built this like giant industry around this sort of this kind of thing. I mean, the scary parts are when you read articles that talk about how most of like the Earth's history has been like giant climate fluctuations, like crazy ones. I mean, that's why it's like obviously you read any book on the dinosaurs, you're like, oh yeah, the Antarctica used to be the tropics. I mean, like huge changes happen, and it's in the last 10,000 years have been like. Mind-bogglingly stable, like in the in the history of the world, we've never really seen anything quite like it.
It's just proof that we're living in a simulation.
I mean, maybe like somebody designed it that way, but it's also like everything like basically humans didn't change at all for the most part. We evolved, and then like there's a steady part in climate, boom, agriculture is developed, and then it just fucking goes. And it's like we just sort of assume that this is how it always is, but guess what?
And
folks?
how it's gonna be.
It's almost never been like this. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's how it's. So anyway, like I take a long view. I'm not a skier. I don't own a ski resort. I do not work for anything that necessarily makes money based on skiing, at least not directly, although kind of indirectly. So it isn't like a huge concern of mine other than, oh shit, like climate's changing, like, and it's a little bit of a bummer when if I want to go to the snow and it hasn't snowed yet. Like my wife and I last night were like, okay, should we go to our friend's cabin in Tahoe like the week before Thanksgiving, or should we go down to Hollister Ranch? Because we have options for both, right? And it's like, well, I don't know if it'll have snowed yet. And like, it probably should have, you know what I mean? But like a few years ago, it was January, and I went up there to test some snow tires. There was no snow anywhere. So it's like,
yeah.
Anyway, it's
this
gnarly.
isn't. I don't want to like fly in here with a like you should know better. Snow sports industry. Because like, what are they supposed to do? Like they have minimums to hit, and they got things to do. Like, well, I'll keep riding this along until I can't, I suppose. But it does. And there's obviously the climate work that needs to get done, and the legislation needs to pass. Which, to our first story, probably not likely to happen anytime soon.
Nope.
But it just. I read this and you see like the, bookings are up at, American ski resorts kind of thing. And I'm like, oh my God.
Well,
like,
I think a lot of people are learning to ski, I guess. Like I like that, those are independent, just like, here's the thing. Not everybody pays attention to this shit. Right. So like, I would say
totally.
like the majority of people are going to be like, what? It's not snowing as much. What do you mean? They don't know. Like they look at the mountains and there's snow on it. Like it's,
Yeah.
And
it snowed in Hawaii last week, apparently.
Did it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen snow in Hawaii, and it's just like snow anywhere else, folks.
Yeah, right.
You are not aware that you're in Hawaii. It's not like it's tropical and then it's snowing.
It's a real
where
tall
you are
mountain.
Feels like it should be snowing there, and then it does.
Right.
I'd be curious, like what they tried. Right. They obviously, I'm sure they tried mountain biking. They must not have any good like access to like mountain bike stuff because it feels, or there's too much of it around there because that's like an obvious slam dunk summertime thing.
This is a problem for you, though. You know why?
My learning how to ski thing?
Well, that's a small problem. The big problem is that when there's no more skiing, everyone's going to start surfing.
Fuck off. That's already happened as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it seems like that's already been the case. I mean, it's like the thing is, like that freaks me out because it's like if you live in, this affects you too, but I mean, if you live in California, like your water comes from snow.
Yeah.
And so it's like, that like this year feels.
Most of the West.
This year feels like it's dry and it's been dry and it felt like it was going to be dry and like I'm sure that by like February we're all going to be like, oh, like watching
Got a little rain.
reservoir
Saturday
levels
night
drop.
it rained a little bit.
It rained here.
Rain.
It rained
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry to this. I mean, sorry about that. Sorry, ski resorts.
Yeah, sorry, French people in this part of France. That sucks.
You should have guessed, 80 years ago when you built yourself that like.
What the hell were you thinking?
Yeah. How
Jesus.
did you not know? Yeah.
We believe in the sock to make you happy. We believe in the sock, home for comfort. We believe in the sock, you don't have to bust, blister, or fall. We believe in free range toes and having room to roam and fine gauge merino wool is comfortable as home. We believe in made in USA, and we believe in doing what we say. Where fits, we fit. That's right. Where fits, we fit. That's right. And we believe in the sock. Fits. We believe in the sock. Fits.
That was Fit Socks coming in hot, or at least thermo-regulated. They're bringing a fresh new sock sound to 2025. If you don't know Fits, you should. They're the even smarter merino performance brand with patented technology that does what it says it does. It fits. Whole foot comfort, baby. Check Fits out on tour from November 11th to the 14th in Kansas City at GOA Connect. If you don't have an appointment, go by their booth and say hi. Who knows? You may run into Travis and Taylor just hanging out and talking socks. And now, back to the show. Well, good thing we're kind of in a sour mood right now because it's time for the parting shot.
Time to leave this place that town forgotten. Let's take a rock and head on home. It's time for a party shot.
Who's first? Who's going first?
I feel like you always go first. I can go first.
Yeah, you go first. I definitely went first last time. You go first.
All right. So I know I've talked about this at least at some point on the show, but I've definitely referred to the fact that you can't write single track legally in Marin a bunch.
Yeah.
So, but we've had a very like historic month or so here in Marin County. I don't think I'm saying this just because I live here. I do think it should count as the birthplace of mountain biking. I mean, it really is. Like, say what you will
the
about
only other
like
place
Crested Butte and stuff.
Yeah,
but, like,
exactly. That's
they
the
were
other
kinda-
place I can lay claim.
They were doing their thing, but like all the big innovators came from here, right? And like when they went out to Crested Butte, like was like, holy shit, like you guys are riding way more advanced bikes than we are. Like, this really is where it started. And you know but you can't ride single track here, largely because it started here. Nobody knew what to do with it, and like people got mad, and like you know the law enforcement people were like, well, we don't really know what these bikes are. We're just shutting it all down, and that's just how it's been ever since. Okay. Anyway, after decades and decades of advocacy work, and just honestly an aging out of the population.
That's a big one.
The governing body of the Mount Tamalpais watershed, and Mount Tamalpais is like this 2,500 foot peak in Marin. That's, you can see it from everywhere. It's like our you know, I don't know. It's like our focal point. Where finally relented, and they established a pilot program with 9 trails that were going to be. I don't remember how long the pilot project is supposed to last. You know, a couple of years, right? And they're going to be open to mountain bikes, and we're going to monitor and see what happens. Is there going to be hiker interactions? Are they going to be bad? Is there going to be any kind of environmental issues? And they took time to like build up the trails. They took resources away from like other trails that we'd already been building and put them up there to like kind of make sure they're bike friendly. And these are trails that hikers don't. This is such a long process, right? And so they were like identified trails that hikers don't use that much. These are trails that are hard to get to unless you're on a bike. Like, it's a long fucking slog to hike a lot of these trails. Anyway, all of that was supposed to open October 3rd. The pilot program was supposed to start October 3rd. We were all just so stoked. October 2nd, a couple local like conservation groups filed lawsuits saying that the watershed hadn't done proper CEQA, like the proper like environmental like risk assessment thing, and stopped it. And it's like, I'm not going to use her name. Anybody who's listening to the show who lives in Fairfax or Marin County will know who I'm talking about. But one of the organizations is spearheaded by this woman whose life is all about preventing people from riding mountain bikes around here. That's her entire life. Like, she was on the news recently with her. She's an equestrian, right? Which there's nothing but data showing how horses fuck up trails way more than bikes ever possibly could. She loves to ride her horses on the trails, but we can't have bikes. And it's her life goal to prevent this from happening. And she's one of the instigators behind the lawsuit. It's going to cost $500,000 minimum for the watershed to fight this. That's the watershed. That's where our drinking water comes from. Like, my water rates go for all that sort of stuff. I'm going to be paying almost $500,000 at minimum for this lawsuit, when they could have filed suit way before, but they waited till the very end, probably because they I don't know why, other than just make a point, just to be jerks about it. And it was then on November 1st, a judge was supposed to kind of rule one way or the other, but he's asked for more time to like really to fully look at all the evidence. So now nobody knows if it'll ever open again. It might open, it might not. We really don't know. And so my parting shot, I don't know how to say this without being a total asshole about it, but just leave us the fuck alone. Just let us ride our bikes. Like, this is absurd at this point. I mean, it is. It is so beyond the pale. Like, every other place in the country has figured out how to have mountain bikers and horses and hikers all in the same place. Mm-hmm. Everybody here did their homework. The people that like opened the pilot project, these are not mountain bikers. These are like environmentalists and biologists who like did all the research. Like, okay, this should be fine. Nothing. Like, absolutely no willingness to like work with us, to talk with us, nothing. So there was a huge rally yesterday or 2 days ago up at the top of Mount Tam, and like Outside was there. I guess they're going to be covering it, but it's a nightmare, and it's a black mark on this county, and it's a black mark on people that are like so like the definition of NIMBYs that I mean, it's like, we'll be better off when they've just aged out. Like, I hate to say that, but like, it's. Can you imagine the pilot program, like the studies all show that there's more mountain bikers and hikers at this point up there, and so it's like,
of course,
like, just makes me so mad to think about. I don't even. What's my party shot is just leave us alone. Just let us ride our bikes. Just let us ride our fucking bikes. That's
a good one. It'll work out. Maybe you might be dead before it happens, but it'll work out.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just poach in the meantime, I guess.
So you're not preventing anything, really.
Right. Yep.
Well, my parting shot is we talked about this, I think, when we were in Montana. I'm going to taking aim at some common words and phrases that people in the outdoor community, including myself, frankly,
yes.
have driven kind of straight into the ground.
Send it, Colin.
Right?
Send it.
Right? Yeah.
Send,
I'm
send
saving
your
a few.
parting shot.
For the most part, this applies mostly, I think, to like our generation. But just because we're old doesn't mean we can't change, right? And there are many of these that we can complain about. Send it is one. But I've chosen three that I feel like we need to pull out the old thesaurus, find a few new words to use in their place. And the first one is cheers. Okay? This is a very, I feel like, 39 to 59
Is that an outdoor?
sort of.
Is that an outdoor? Wait, this isn't outdoors. This is just generally speaking.
I would say generally speaking, but it is heavily used in the outdoor community. Like, we're going to sign off emails. Cheers.
Yeah.
And a phone call. Cheers. Look,
would
the
never say
British
that.
own cheers. All right. It sounds weird
What
when
if these
we
are just
say
people
it.
that are just really big fans of Sam Malone, and they just want any reference they can to the best TV show that's ever been made?
It is the best TV show that's ever been made. I feel like if you can work it in, it has to be then. There's a way we have to rephrase it so that it's like cheers, parentheses, the NBC sitcom.
Yes.
Look, I did it. I definitely signed an email saying cheers. I thought it was like peppy and fun and very outdoorsy. Good. I'm jealous. But look, I'm also going to throw mate into this, right?
Oh,
if you're an
Lord.
American,
Yeah.
right? They don't work for us. Okay. Next, epic. I'm sorry.
I say it way too much. God,
I do too.
I need to stop.
And it's not totally off the table because when you use it, if it's truly about something epic, right? Like if you're telling me about your 3-mile jaunt on your local trail followed by like a good coffee or a beer is epic, it's not.
Are tacos ever epic, Colin, do you think?
No, they're freaking amazing, I guess.
Yeah, but they're never
did you
epic.
get caught, did you once get caught upside down between some boulders? Yeah, that's pretty epic.
That's epic. Yeah.
Did you get stranded on an island overnight when like you misjudged the tides on a paddling trip? Yeah, epic.
But a donut is not epic.
Right. But your bike ride on your suspension gravel bike is not epic. All right. So no matter what Strava tells you, stop saying it's epic.
Does Strava have an epic setting?
It must. If it doesn't, it will now when this thing hits the algorithms. But the last thing is 14ers. We're banning the use of the phrase 14ers because no one gives a shit.
It doesn't. Right? It's not only significant because that just happens to be the tallest mountains we have in America.
That's what I'm saying. Climbing to the top of a 14,000-foot peak holds no value than any other peak, especially when your trailhead is like at 11,000 feet.
Yeah.
Just say you hike the fucking mountain. If you want to hike a 14er, go to Puget Sound and go up Mount Rainier. And then you have hiked 14,000
From the bottom to the top. Yeah.
You are at sea level,
yeah.
And then you're at 14,000 feet. So there's many more. We'll come for Send It later on.
I don't know. I can't believe Send It didn't crack your top 3.
Do you want to add in Send It? Should we add Send It?
I have the first.
Are you
time
sending it?
The first time I heard that, I was just like, "Oh, I hate this. I hate this term."
I'd like to know the progression of that phrase. I think of it as a climbing thing.
I think it is.
It's like,
yeah.
Well, that makes kind of sense. Like I'm sending this piece. It's like you're sending the. I think there's a way. Again, some of these things are.
I don't really understand.
Like,
who knows why? I mean, It's not like a grammar thing. I have no idea how sending it could possibly apply to climbing a rock. But like,
yeah,
whatever. Like, I don't care. But just I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of seeing it like in ads for shit. Like, I'm not going to send it by drinking your fucking beer, or whatever.
Let's go is getting quickly.
Let's go. It's gotta go. It's gotta go.
I say it too
Nobody
much, too.
said that ever, and now every sporting feat is accompanied by "Let's go."
Let's go. Let's fucking go.
When did that start?
I think it was Tom Brady. Is what I think.
The Hertz commercial though was actually pretty. When he would do like the "Let's go" with the Hertz commercials, those were kind of funny. Like last year, I liked those. But I agree with you. It's so cringy to me. Like like teenage or not even teenagers, like little leaguers being "Let's go." I'm just
Let's
go. Stop it.
Just stop. Everybody stop. All right. That's my parting. That's my part. That's my
Everybody
farting
just
shot.
Stop
That's my
talking
parting shot.
and let us ride mountain bikes.
Yeah.
Please. That's it.
In silence.
Yes.
All right, man. Well, we can wrap it up there. We got anything else?
Probably.
Yeah. Give us time. We'll come up with something else.
Not gonna get into it here though.
The Rock Fight's a production of Rock Fight LLC. For Justin Hausman, I'm Colin Truth. Thanks for listening. And here to take us out is Chris DeMakes, who's just wrapping up a tour in New Zealand, I believe. And he's here to sing the Rock Fight song. We'll see you next time, Rock Fighters. From New Zealand. He's calling in.
Hell yeah.
Never misses an episode, Chris DeMakes.
Hell yeah, Chris.
We'll see you next time.
Rock fight.